What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NFL Sunday Roundup and the early best bets for Week 10 in the NFL. I'm Russell Brown. We are back here. Week 9 essentially in the books. We got 2 games left. We've got Sunday Night Football with the Colts and the Vikings. We've got Monday Night Football tomorrow with the Chiefs and the Bucs. We'll talk a little bit about Monday Night Football with my Monday Night Football bet segment. But before we get into any of that, I want to tell you guys about BettingPros Discord chat. You guys got to check it out. If you're looking to up your game in sports betting, join our exclusive sports betting Discord community at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers who provide free picks for the NBA, the NFL, MLB, NHL player props, live betting, and so much more. But now you can also participate in our weekly community picks. So cast your vote, see how your picks stack up against the experts, and track your success over at bettingpros.com/chat. So get in the Discord chat today. But week 9 in the books. And this show, we always kind of recap a little bit about the current week in the NFL, and then we look ahead to some of the early lines that have been coming out over the last hour or so here on Sunday night. It's about 8:20 Eastern Standard Time. But some quick recaps for today. The Commanders, Washington Commanders, they stay hot. One of the funnest teams in football right now. Hard to not bet for them. You don't want to bet against them. They are 7-2 on the season. They beat the Giants today. The over hit once again in their game. They're 6-3 to the over, and they're 7-1-1 against the spread this season. So very profitable if you're betting with the Commanders and if you're betting with the over in their games. They're scoring more points than any team in the National Football League right now. The only team scoring more points than them is the Baltimore Ravens, 283 points to 263. So rookie quarterback, playmakers on offense, a legit defense. You should have confidence when you bet the Washington Commanders right now. But speaking of the Ravens, Baltimore 8-1. They win again today. They absolutely just steamroll through Denver. They are 8-1 to the over this season, like I said, and they have really been clicking on offense. So they've got some tough divisional games coming up with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati on the schedule. They play Cincinnati this coming week, week 10, Thursday Night Football. We'll talk about the over in that one when we get to week 10. But a lot to like with Baltimore. They've got Derrick Henry clicking. Lamar Jackson's playing just fine. Zay Flowers had a great day today. He had 2 touchdowns. So a lot to like with Baltimore. And if they can clean up some things defensively, this team really just becomes even that much more fun to bet with confidence when you look at the spread and maybe even some of the totals because of how much they put up on offense. So keep tabs on Baltimore. Continue to bet them. If you haven't been doing so, you might want to start. Another team that you might want to start betting, the Atlanta Falcons. This team is 5-1 in their last 6 games. We've talked plenty about Atlanta on this show. They're very favorable schedule. Second half of the season, they've got New Orleans, Denver. They got to go there, but that's the next 2 games. They've got a matchup against the Chargers. Those are the next 3 opponents for them. They're a 6-3 football team right now. They're playing very just sound football. They can score points, it feels like, at almost any click of the finger, any snap of the finger, if you will. Darnell Mooney, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Kirk Cousins starting to gel. And the defense kind of has this bend, don't break. I mean, they played the Cowboys today. Cowboys are not great. And we'll talk about the Cowboys here in a minute, but just a lot to like with Atlanta. They don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Going into today, they only had 6 sacks on the season, the worst in franchise history for them. But this is an Atlanta team that I think you can start betting with some confidence. As we mentioned, looking at teams as we get through the middle part of the season here, who can you bet with some confidence? I think Washington, I think Baltimore, I think Atlanta, I think Detroit. All these teams really just feel like teams that you can confidently bet right now as we get into week 10 of the NFL. But speaking of the Cowboys, and I'm going to talk about the Dolphins as well. Both teams lost today, but both teams are 2-6 against the spread. These are 2 teams that were heavy favorites to win their division, potential make a run in the playoffs, but really keep tabs on the Cowboys. We talked about them in the last episode. because of first half just being outscored. They were being outscored like 83-23 in the first half. It might get even worse. CeeDee Lamb suffered a shoulder injury today. Dak Prescott suffered a hand injury as well. There's no update or status updates as far as what they're going to be moving forward. But what happens with the Cowboys moving forward? Those injuries are very significant. This is a team that's kind of in win now mode. They're 3-5. They've got to figure it out. They've got to catch Washington up at the top because it's going to be really tough for them to make, I think, a wild card spot with Minnesota, Green Bay. You look at the NFC West, that's kind of a gauntlet in itself. A lot of teams 4-4, 5-4. So it's going to be really tough for Dallas. So they're going to have to figure it out. As for the Dolphins, they play the Rams next Monday. They're 2.5-point underdogs right now. That game's in LA. I kind of like the Rams minus 2.5. The Rams just gutted one out with Seattle, got to overtime. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford seems to getting out of that early season funk that he was in. He didn't really have the playmakers. He threw a great pass to Demarcus Robinson in overtime tonight for a one-handed catch by Robinson. So I kind of like early for next week. I like 2.5-point favorite LA Rams. And let's jump into week 10 here as we look into week 10 of the NFL. We have hit the bye weeks once again. There was an episode 2 weeks ago where we didn't have any bye weeks, which was kind of weird. But next week we've got the Packers, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Seahawks on a bye. And just looking at lines through DraftKings right now, there's some games that I don't like. For example, Tennessee and Los Angeles Chargers, 9.5-point spread. I don't like this number. It's kind of high for just an NFL game. And Tennessee's been really bad. They're 1-7 against the spread. I just don't know if I can trust the Chargers. I know they played really well against the Cleveland Browns today. You might have some confidence going 9.5, especially since they're going to be home. But I don't know. 9.5, that's a lot of points. Maybe you put that on a teaser or something like that. I don't know. Don't really like that game, but I wanted to throw it out there because some of these numbers I'm going to give and some of these games that I'm highlighting, these are the ones I feel a little bit more confident about talking about right now. Other games, like I said, Chargers, Titans, just kind of weird. Didn't like it. Atlanta, though, -3, 3-point favorites against New Orleans. I mentioned Atlanta. They've won 5 out of their last 6. The Saints have lost 7 in a row. Are they due for a win? It's possible, but they're 3-6 against the spread. The Saints are playing really bad, and it feels like they're imploding on both sides of the football. Players are getting banged up. Chris Olave suffered another concussion today, and you saw kind of what that happened to the offense. They not say they became one-dimensional, but they were really forcing it to Alvin Kamara, and they couldn't punch it in, and they lost to the Panthers today. Worst team in football, probably the Carolina Panthers, and they lost to them. So the Saints are an intriguing team. I would bet Atlanta -3 very confidently right now, just off of today, and I would take those odds at -110. I mentioned Cincinnati and Baltimore. The total for this game is 52 points for Thursday Night Football. That's really early. The over is -110. Baltimore is 8-1 to the over this year. Cincinnati is 6-3 to the over this year. So I kind of like it. Short week. I feel like both these teams can put up points. I know they had an absolute shootout a few weeks back. So I think this could be a relatively high-scoring game. And at the end of the day, I mean, we need 28-24, 31-24, something in that range, 31-27. I think these teams can put up points, so we'll see. The other game that I like for week 10, and this is for Sunday, and a lot of it will depend on what happens tomorrow with Tampa Bay, Monday Night Football, but San Francisco coming off a bye, -5.5. I like this. 49ers, they're in a good spot coming off this bye. They're 4-4 against the spread. They're banged up, but I think they're going to come back a little bit healthier coming out of the bye. They've been able to run the football pretty consistently with Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerrero. They are doing what they need to do with running the football. And I trust Brock Purdy and the weapons that he has over what Baker has without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin. So I think we'll see Debo back. I think there's a possibility of Juwan Jennings being back. They've obviously got George Kittle running the football. I just feel good about that -5.5 number, considering what San Francisco's been able to do in recent weeks. So we'll see what happens there. But let's jump into Monday Night Football. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into Monday Night Football tomorrow. One game, the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. And you guys, of course, can build this on a same game parlay on bettingpros.com. It's very simple. If you're looking to build your own same game parlay, check out the Betting Pros same game parlay builder. Combine multiple bets within a single game, leveraging insights like correlated bet recommendations, EV ratings, cover probability, and so much more. Perfect your betting strategy by analyzing our overall correlation grades and projections, and stay ahead by following the latest same game parlays placed by fellow bettors. So start building winning parlays today at bettingpros.com/parlay or on the Betting Pros sports betting app. So let's jump into Monday Night Football. I've got Pat Mahomes as leg number one here, or bet number one, if you want to call it. You can bet these straight. You can put them in a parlay, however you want to go about it. But Pat Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns at -125. It's weird that Mahomes has more interceptions than touchdowns right now, but he did play well last week against the Raiders. Starting to seem like he's figuring some things out with Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce and all that fun stuff. And I feel like he could do the same on Monday Night Football. After all, the Bucs have given up 14 passing touchdowns to quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks. So I think that this is a very manageable 2 passing touchdown game for him, considering that they've got Kareem Hunt going in the offense now, Xavier Worthy, like I mentioned, Travis Kelce, all those guys. So I feel confident in that. Leg number 2, or bet number 2, Chiefs have been very generous to tight ends over the last 2 weeks. They've given up 157 yards on 12 receptions during that span. As I mentioned, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans are out. I'd expect we'd see a lot of Cade Otton in this game. He's got plenty of targets over the last 2 weeks, 17 receptions on 20 targets for 181 yards. So I feel pretty good in taking that one with Cade Otton. And then the other leg, it's going to be Kareem Hunt over 63.5 rushing yards at -110. I just look at Kareem Hunt, and it's like he's never even left the organization. It's like he's been a part of everything in Kansas City for quite some time. He's just very comfortable in that offense. He's providing a spark with Pacheco being out. He has seen 20-plus carries in 3 straight weeks, so the volume should be there. And he's averaging 77 rushing yards per game through 4 games with the Chiefs. So when you look at the Bucs over the last 2 weeks, they've allowed 269 rushing yards in that 2 weeks window. I think this is a favorable matchup for Hunt. I think it's a good matchup for Cade Otton and, of course, Pat Mahomes. You can same game parlay this for odds of +465. So you guys, of course, like I said, you can check that out on the Betting Pros same game parlay builder, and you can get these odds over at DraftKings. So check all that stuff out. That's Monday Night Football. That's the Week 10 look ahead, the Week 9 recap here on the NFL Sunday Roundup Show. I'm Russ Brown. You guys can find me on Twitter at Russ NFL Draft. You can also read my work over at bettingpros.com and at fantasypros.com. We'll be back next week for a Week 10 recap, a Week 11 early look ahead. Find some of the best lines on DraftKings. You guys keep betting, keep doing what you're doing. We will talk to you next week right here on bettingpros.com.